Hey, what do you think? I'll take that as a yes. Welcome back to the Voodoo Garden, everybody. I appreciate you coming back. My name is Ray. I am the host. This is my lovely co-host, Rascal. Yes, Rascal. I almost called him Tanner. Oh, it's a good day. We tried to... Whoop. You went down? Yeah, of course you do. He needs to go sniff around in the new, cleaner version of the Voodoo Garden. What I did is just cleaned it all out. Moved everything out of the Voodoo Garden, swept it, made sure I cleaned it up really good, and then just painted the floor. I was sick of that. I mean, the plants are nice and everything, and you know what's really not nice? This thing has a needle on the tip of it, and every time I go like that, I feel like I'm getting a shot. Okay, I'm going to just sit over here, and you... Yeah, let's try to be friends here. It doesn't look like very much in the way of plants, but that's going to change. That's definitely going to change. I have something to show you today. I have a couple things to actually I have a few things to show you. I always have something fun to show you in the Voodoo Garden, but I first wanted to show out the new cleaner look. Washed the rug, painted the floor. We're all set to go. And also, there's less plants because I threw out some of the stuff I really didn't want. I told you I was going to do that, and I did what I told you I was going to do. Now, let's get down to what I wanted to do today. I'm going to bring some stuff over from here and show you what we're going to do. Since the room is nice and clean right now, I figured what better thing to do than to make another mess. What do you think of that? Sniff? Yeah, you like compost. Don't roll in my compost. Yes, this is brand new compost that was made outside by me out of the chicken manure, straw, and whatever was in the chicken coop, feathers and stuff. I piled it all up outside. You saw it if you watched my Praxis 55712 channel. I made this huge mountain of compost. Well, what I did was normally I wouldn't bring compost into this room because outdoor compost has a million different kinds of bugs in it. Doesn't hurt your garden because, like I say, there's a balance going on out there. For every bug, there is a predator for that bug. So it keeps a balance going out there. In here, we have no balance. So we have to maintain it the best that we can. The best that I can do to maintain the balance when I bring outdoor compost in is I need to make sure that there are no bugs, but I need to make sure that there's beneficial bacteria and all the good stuff in compost. So that's really kind of tricky, getting rid of the bad stuff but keeping the good stuff. Well, my solution was I have these old turkey pans that I didn't want to throw out. So what I do is I clean them, and they're aluminum pans. They're really cheap. You can buy them at Walmart. And what I do is I fill it up with the compost, and then I put foil over the top, and I have a stove. Yes, I do. I have a stove outside, unlike most people, in my shed, an oven. I put foil on this nice and tight. It's a propane stove. I put it in there and I cooked it at 300 degrees for 3 hours. May seem a little excessive, but yeah, I'm a little bit OCD when it comes to not bringing in insects. I've had insects invade my Voodoo Garden, and it was like the end of days a couple times. I lost a lot of plants. So, you know, once bitten, twice shy. Twice bitten, paranoid. So this compost has been heated up to 300 degrees through and through, and then allowed to cool down overnight. And then I brought it in today. I took a powerful magnifying glass off the wall over here, this big, weird magnifying glass, and I looked at it very, very close to make sure there were no living bugs in here. There are going to be some dead bugs because nothing can live at 300 degrees for 3 hours. I found nothing. Now, the last hurdle is, are there eggs from the bugs in here? My guess is no. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to find out. I'm going to start, I will find out. I'm not trying to find out. I'm hoping that they're not. And the temperature and procedure says there shouldn't be. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to have fresh, rich compost mixed in with the potting soil that I always use for my indoor plants. So my best solution was not to buy it, because you can't be guaranteed what's in that stuff. Do they sterilize it? Do they not sterilize it? A lot of folks have come up with spider mites when they buy stuff from the store. So the only way to actually make sure something's done right for me is to try and do it myself. And that was my idea. Poke, 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 poke. And so this has been purified to my specifications. Now, the next step is to mix it up, and that's what we're going to do today. So have a seat over here and enjoy the nice clean floor, by the way. Yikes. When I said sit down, I didn't mean shove your face in it. Okay, I guess you're close enough. We can work with this. All right, we can work with this. I want to explain what my soil mix is really, really quick, and then we'll get on with this. Right here, you see what's called worm castings, and that's where worms eat stuff and then they poop it out. It's called vermicompost or worm castings. This is one of the ingredients in my potting mix. And then over here, this big dry clump of stuff, this is called coir or cocoa peat. It's made from the shaved husks of coconuts. Yes, and this is used by some folks, and I am that some folk. It's used in place of peat moss because peat moss can be a little acidic, and plus it's not as much of a renewable resource. So coir is a wonderful growing medium. It doesn't have an acidic pH, and that's what I like because I don't want to have messed up pH with my plants. What you do with the coir is you put it in water and then it hydrates and it expands huge. This one block would make enough coir to cover me up. So it does make quite a bit. I hydrate this, it'll turn dark, get big and fluffy, just like this. I mix those two together and let me try not to hit you in the face. It all goes in here. See, I have that set up. Now tilt your face down just a little bit. This is my potting mix. Into the bucket, into the container, go the coir and the worm castings and cheap potting mix. I just go for anything that's on sale because it really doesn't matter. It's just a substrate to grow the plants in. It really has no permanent nutritional or any kind of value that, as far as I'm concerned. I mix all those together, and then the little white dots that you normally see in potting soil, you notice I have a lot more. That's because I add vermiculite, and that helps loosen it up and keep it from compacting, and each one of those little pieces holds moisture perfectly, but it doesn't hold too much. Now, the reason I do this is because I've mentioned before, but I'll do this again for the new folks. When you water your plants after having them in a pot for a while, sometimes the water just tends to pool on the top and you're wondering why it doesn't go in and then it goes in on the side of the pot. Well, that's because it's too compacted, and also peat moss repels water. That's why I mix it up with all this other stuff. Peat moss potting soil is cheap, and that's basically what it is peat moss with a little artificial fertilizer that doesn't last for very long. It's cheap, and that's why we buy it. Now the coir costs a little bit more, but it's a little bit better at not shunning water and allowing it to soak in. The worm compost, the vermicompost, is high in bacteria and all kinds of other little minerals that your soil is going to need. Everything plays its part in here. Now, another thing that's going to play its part is this. Up close and in your face. This is the compost I make. Rich, thick. Now this started out as nothing more than chicken poop, chicken doo-doos from my chickens that are raised outside, and straw, which is like hay, only without the leaves and stuff. It's the long pieces of grass that you see. For some people that don't live in the country, don't know exactly what straw is. You can see little pieces of it. Now what I do is I pile this up outside, add water, and give it time. It heats up. Bacteria, thermophilic bacteria, and other things help break this down until it looks like dirt. It looks just like dirt, doesn't it? And when it's finished cooking, it will not smell really strong. It'll smell like kind of like dirt. Now, this has a nice earthy smell to it, a little bit rich. So that means that it's almost totally cooked, broken down. Not 100%, but then again, it doesn't have to be 100%. And this is going to be an incredibly rich, nitrogen-rich, phosphorus, potassium, minerals. It is a very well-balanced fertilizer, and this is what brings life and fertility into your soil. You use compost, and it'll do amazing things. Now, I don't want to put a ton of it in there. You might be thinking, well, if it's so darn perfect, right, why don't you just grow plants out of pure compost? Well, no, that's just not how it works. It's a food for the soil, and the soil turns that into food for the plants. So it's not a growing medium, it's too rich for that. Your plants will need other stuff. So what I do is I take this and I'm going to mix it in with my potting soil. That's something I've never done before. I've never brought in outdoor compost. Now this compost is going to be a little sticky, a little moist, so the potting soil is dry as a bone. You know how you get potting soil and you open up the bag and it's really dry. Well, what I'm doing is I'm just mixing this up by hand. It's kind of like mixing up cookie dough in a way. Because that's what it feels like. This almost feels like cookie dough. Because it was moist. We've been having a lot of rain outside. And so when I put that compost into the container and baked it, it steamed it. So it's very, very moist. And that's okay though. That's okay. Now compost is going to add bacteria, fungi, all kinds of good stuff, nutrients into this soil that's going to last a lot longer than the artificial stuff they spray in here that doesn't last for very long. You know, you put plants in potting soil and they grow good for a while and then they start kind of fading away and you wonder why. It's not your fault. It's because the soil only has a limited amount of stuff in it that it can use. Now when I put the compost in here, this actually is turning it into a living, breathing thing. And as long as you give it water and a little bit of maybe compost tea every now and then, but if you give it water, it's going to just keep on growing and stuff because the bacteria are in there. Now as your plants grow, they're going to use the nutrients out of here. As the plants grow, they will also put out dead leaves and stuff. Crumble those leaves and mix them into the top part of the soil, and the microbes in this soil are going to eat up those leaves and turn them back into nutrients. So that's one way to keep your soil going a lot longer. Keep putting the stuff back in there, because if you take out of it, you can only take out for so long and then there's nothing left over. You got to put back. You can't get something out of nothing. Okay, this is all mixed up. Now I would say about maybe a quarter compost to 3/4 potting soil. You can put in more if your plants really want rich stuff, but you don't really need a whole lot. And this also depends on the compost. If you have bagged compost from the store, it's not really that rich. And you can tell just by looking at it. This stuff here that I have is incredibly rich. So I don't want to use too awful much because, you know, I don't want my plants throwing up all over the house. You know, that's just too much stuff. And too much can cause your plants to grow a little bit crazy. And we don't want that. We don't want them to be all jacked up on drugs and going nuts all over the house. We want them to grow normal, okay? And some people like to grow fast and furious. I like to grow normal. I like to enjoy the experience. Not a race. Not for me it isn't. There. There's the soil I want. Doesn't look much different, but it's got the compost in it. And that is going to do us some good. Now I'm going to pot up a plant really quick. And by the way, this was a gift sent to me by a friend. I've grown a lemon tree in here before. Not in this room, but back when I lived in Minnesota. Somebody sent me a lemon tree. I don't know what kind. It's probably just a common lemon. And the nice thing about growing lemon trees is you rub the leaf and it smells like fresh lemon. I love that. Actually, this smells like fresh lemon and compost. What a good combination. Anyway, I planted this because I couldn't keep it. I was making the compost and I couldn't wait. So I had to put it into the regular potting soil. Now what I'm going to do is take this out of here, and I normally don't do this. Normally, see, it's already growing roots. I normally don't take it out of soil and disrupt the roots, but I want to give it some of this good soil. So what I do is, if you want to take the soil off your plants, just hold them gently, vibrate them, and be very, very careful, and don't ever pull the roots apart. Okay, that is a bozo no-no. This hasn't been in there that long, but it has grown some roots. Now I'm going to mix that old soil with the good soil, and I'm going to pot it. Let me find a pot for it really quick. Oh yes, and it's update time as well. I've got all kinds of things going on in here. These are the plants that I put in here to show you how they root in water. Here's an update on those. This one has flowered. Yes, it did. This is the African mask. It has flowered while it rooted. Look at the roots. I'm going to give you a good close-up of that. We have the hairs coming out, new roots coming out. That is a beautiful root structure. And this is just plain water, no rooting hormone, none of that nonsense. Didn't need it. This one, last time I showed it, it just had the smaller roots. Look at that. This is what I'm showing you when you take the Dieffenbachia or dumb cane or dragon tree. Another species called dragon tree is very similar to this. At each of these junctions, these lines, look at that. Look at the roots that it puts out. And the more roots it puts out, the stronger it's going to get. Everywhere up the stem, this will put out roots. So of course, I'm going to bury this all the way down. And every single one of these roots is going to go down there and fill the pot and help this plant grow healthy and strong. And with the compost, of course, we're going to have a bit of a problem here. This plant is going to go nuts. But this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like when you root a plant in water, and this is what it looks like when a dumb cane roots in water, and also a horse head. I mean, an African mask. I don't know why I call it horse mask. I don't know. I keep getting confused. This is the African mask. It does really well with rooting too. So I'm going to put these into the new potting mixture. I'm not going to show how I pot them. I mean, I've shown how I pot plants a million times. I got other things I want to show you, and so I just wanted to show you the update on these. Next time you see them, they're going to be in pots filling up the Voodoo Garden. This is why I slowly emptied out the Voodoo Garden, because I have other things I want to grow, and these ones are going to grow big and beautiful, so I have to make room for them, and they're going to grow really, really quick. So let me get these back in water for now. I'll repot them later, but I want to show you a couple other fun things that have happened recently. This thing, and I was warned. When I showed this plant on the, I think it was the last episode, there were a handful of people who told me exactly what this was, and they warned me. They did. You did warn me, and I took that to heart. They said, watch out, Ray, that thing is going to go nuts. And it did. It's putting out the leaves like I showed you, and it had this little tiny stick. And I think it was only this tall last time I showed you. So yeah, we have about 2 feet more worth of growth, and this stem just keeps growing. There's nothing coming off of it. It's just a stem. My guess is, from what everybody's telling me, this stem's going to go way the heck up here, and then it's going to start putting out more stuff. So I really don't know what to expect from this thing other than good things. And I'm going to have to transplant it, because this just will not do. This small pot is not going to support all of this. So I'm going to transplant this, and even though it's a succulent, this is a succulent plant, I'm going to use this mix with the compost and see what it does for this. I'm always curious. I know people say don't plant succulents into rich soil, but I just can't help myself. I got to try it. And this thing, this little stump, this is the one that kind of freaked everybody out. You remember I chopped my papaya off and threw the top away. Well, this is what happened when I chopped it off, because I really wasn't quite sure what to expect, but I sure as heck didn't expect this. Isn't that adorable and kind of freaky? I expected a couple of those little tiny dots. Now let me go way down here. Let me show you what I mean by dot. Well, we had these, a few of these around here. Well, what happened is they all grew. I thought maybe 1 or 2 would grow. Holy crap. Okay, this is going to be fun. I'm just going to let them do what they want to do. What the heck? This trunk can support a lot of growth. So I thought, you know what? What would be funny is, what if they all grew? And they just started going out and going everywhere. I'm going to have this bonsai looking thing growing here. And it is so entertaining to me. I want to show you the dirt, because it's quite a weird menagerie of stuff. I took the old growth from it, and of course I crumble them up. I have soil mites in here, predatory mites, and they eat stuff. They eat organic matter when they're not eating fungus gnats. And all of these things I threw down here, look, it's like dirt now, and the stuff is decomposing. This is what I was telling you. It will literally turn into soil. These were leaves. Up close, let me crumble this. Now look, leaves. They turn into soil. Give it back to the soil. If your soil is alive, it will do this. It will take everything back and turn it back into soil. Now, this soil has been in this pot for years, and it's growing the same plant for all that time. Normally, if you have a plant in a pot this big, that was growing that big and healthy, it would not support that plant for that long. Well, oh, that's an old avocado pit. Yeah, even an old avocado pit. Look. Look. Yep, that's what happens. Just crumbles. and it goes right back into the soil. The regular potting soil is not going to do this for this long a period of time. So the compost does help. I was given this compost tea. Remember the compost that I ground up and made into powder? That's the same compost that I'm using fresh now. And you can also make tea out of that. It even makes better tea than the powdered stuff because none of the moisture has been taken out. It is wonderful stuff. I'm going to be using that in the garden. In the garden and also in here in the Voodoo Garden. Now what I'm going to do is I was thinking about transplanting this. I'll either transplant it, or if I don't, I'm going to scrape off a little bit of the topsoil here and I'm going to put on a layer of compost and mix it in with the top. That way every time I water it, it's going to feed this plant. And the results I'm expecting to get from this should be spectacular. So we'll find out. I'm going to do that and we'll see what turns up. I really don't know the exact process yet, but I will fill you in and show you the results. I always show you results. So many things to do, and so little time to do it. There are not enough hours in the day for me to be doing all of this stuff. I got things to do outside, but I want to spend time in the Voodoo Garden. Today, it's only 69 degrees. Yeah, it's summertime and it's 69 degrees, which means it's a lot cooler in the house. So I can spend time down in the Voodoo Garden because when it gets hot, the air conditioner has to run like crazy, and these lights, even though they're the new fluorescent lights, they still generate a little bit of heat, and it gets humid in here, and I get miserable, and when I get miserable, I don't want to do anything except get away from whatever's making me miserable. Today's a good day in here, and I'm feeling really good. So I'm going to do as much as I possibly can, and I'm going to add what I don't transplant, I'm going to add compost to. And even all of these other little plants, I'm going to be adding compost to, and boosting them. Like this one in here. I can't transplant this, so I'll put a little compost in there, see what happens. This little thing that keeps giving me injections of whatever's in the leaves, I'm going to put compost in that. And also this one back here. Everything in the Voodoo Garden, and we'll see how it goes. So tune in, keep tuning into the Voodoo Garden to see what happens and see it kind of grow from what it is now into what it's going to be later on. You're going to be surprised from the before and the after. This is the before, okay? Keep this in mind. And as things grow, later on we'll do a shot of the after. And lastly, I'm going to end this program with the before shot. I took a before picture before I did anything to the Voodoo Garden, and then an after picture. So I'm going to show that on the closing of this program. But that's all. That's all for today. I got to get back to work. Thank you for joining me. I really do appreciate it. Until next time, this is Ray and his crazy little fertilized friends. We're out of here. Papaya.